So, there's been some frightening stats that have been released by the police recently. The BBC has basically sent off a load of freedom of information requests to the police to get some stats when it comes to the worst offenders for speeding along Britain's roads. And some of the findings are downright terrifying. I mean, the headline here alone, selfish drivers doing 164 miles per hour must stop, police say. At the very minimum, they should slow the hell down. That is incredible. That is over double the speed limit on motorways, the fastest part of any roads in the UK. So let's have a look at these stats, guys, because, yeah, I like bringing you news here when it comes to the UK and motoring and some of the downright horrible things that happen on our roads. I mean, people always complain about the state of the roads and the state of drivers, and hey, I get it, you know? I'm one of those people who also complains about this, and these kind of findings are, I think they speak for themselves, but I'll just read them out here. The full article on the BBC News. Drivers have been recorded travelling at 164 miles per hour, which is just over 260 kilometres per hour on Britain's roads, prompting a warning from police for people to stop being so selfish and to realise speed kills. Yeah, it would at that speed, without a doubt. More than 24,000 vehicles were caught on camera being driven at more than 100 miles per hour, 164 kilometers per hour, between 2019 and 2023, police data shows. And those are the people that are caught. Imagine how many people have not been caught. One car on the M25 in Kent and one in Greater Manchester were found to be speeding at 164 miles per hour, with cars in London and the Humberside police force area detected being driven at 3 miles per hour. Mildly safer, but not safe by a long stretch. Chief Inspector Craig West, head of roads policing and Kent Police, says the consequences of high-speed crashes can be devastating for family and friends. The BBC sent freedom of information requests to police forces asking what the highest recorded speeds were over a 5-year period. Of the 45 police forces contacted, 27 were able to provide data to the BBC. And here's some of that data. Drivers caught doing over 160 miles per hour. Greater Manchester 164, Kent 160, Cambridgeshire 154, Norfolk 152, and West Yorkshire. Of course, West Yorkshire's on there, not a surprise. 152. I mean, there's other bits here as well. 164 there. The Met Police Service, that's London. 163 in 2022. Yeah, I mean that is abhorrent. That is scary. That is so fast. Greater Manchester Police said a driver clocked at 164 miles per hour on the M62. Of course, it was the M62 in 2023. Was using a cloned number plate. Shock. Kent Police confirmed they were unable to trace the driver of a Seat Leon travelling the same speed on the M25 in Swanley, probably because they drove it into the English Channel at that point. In both cases, this was more than double the motorway speed limit of 70 miles per hour. Meanwhile, a Porsche driver was banned for 6 months for driving 163 miles per hour on the M1 in North London at the start of the COVID pandemic, and the driver travelling at the same speed in Humberside was disqualified from driving for 4 months and fined £950. Doesn't feel like enough, that. 163 miles per hour. Doesn't feel like enough, I'll be honest. South Yorkshire Police said a driver caught at 162 miles per hour in 2019 was issued with a 6-point penalty on their licence and received fines of £1,210. Chief Inspector Craig West said, "Speed does kill. People need to reduce their speed and not drive the full speed limit." He told the BBC it's devastating for the families and friends of the victims and for the officers. It really has a lasting impact on a lot of people, which is why it's important that to get the message across to the small minority of selfish drivers that continue to speed. Gilly Slope from West Sussex is calling for more enforcement following the death of her son, Callum Chapman, who was killed as a passenger in a speeding car that crashed into trees on the A24 near Southwater in 2020. Miss Slope said the vehicle had been travelling at speeds of up to 103 miles per hour. She said, and I quote, "The driver got out more or less unharmed, but Callum didn't last very long. It's ripped my heart out. It just feels like Callum's death was in vain. It's not made any difference and people are still speeding. There's not enough police, cameras, technology in cars. Something needs to be done." End quote. The driver pleaded guilty to causing death by dangerous driving and was jailed for 3 years and disqualified from driving for 4.5 years. The court heard that he had been racing against another car. Pathetic. The driver of that car admitted dangerous driving and was jailed for 6 months and disqualified for 21 months. In 2023, the Department of Transportation, DFT, figures showed that 314 people died in crashes on Britain's road, in which a driver exceeding the speed limit was a contributing factor. This was at least a 10-year high. Wow, yeah, so it kind of dipped, obviously. I mean, dipped well before the pandemic, in fairness, down to 186 in 2018, but it has been steadily rising since then, which is pointing to a few problems. I mean, there's got to be reasons behind that, obviously, but yeah, that's quite a sharp incline. That's not too far off double what it was in 2018 last year. Sussex Police Chief Constable Joe Shiner, the roads policing lead at the National Police Chiefs Council, says every casualty is one too many. Nearly 3,000 people are killed or seriously injured in our roads every year as a result of excessive speeds. For each one of those people, there will be multiple friends, family, and communities affected, so the impact is almost impossible to quantify. Driving in excess of the speed limit is a conscious decision. 2 years in prison. The Sentencing Council said the maximum fine for speeding is £1,000 unless the offence is recorded on the motorway, in which case it's £2,500. Drivers speeding at more than 100 miles an hour are at a serious risk of disqualification, according to David Son, a road traffic lawyer who has represented a driver caught at 163 miles per hour. If there are no other aggravating factors and a relatively clean driving license, then you are doing just over 100 miles an hour. In my experience, you may very well avoid disqualification. He says a ban is almost inevitable for drivers caught at speeding at more than 110 miles per hour, depending on the circumstances, and could prompt a prosecution for dangerous driving. That can attract up to 2 years in prison and will attract a minimum mandatory ban for 1 year, and you cannot resume driving until you've passed an extended driving test. Sean Hellman, a chief scientist for behavioural sciences at the Transport for Research Laboratory in Berkshire, said many new cars are now fitted with intelligent speed assistance technology. The car can warn the driver if it's over the speed limit, and in some systems it can intervene and reduce the speed of the car gradually to get down to the speed limit. Mike Hawes, chief executive for the Society of Motor and Manufacturers and Traders, said 8 in 10 new cars are available with driver assistance systems such as advanced emergency braking. He said the technology has led to a 38% reduction in rear-end crashes. Ultimately, however, motorists must drive responsibly, as while technology can help mitigate accident risks, human error is regrettably still the cause of most crashes. Department for Transportation spokesperson said, there is no excuse for those who risk the lives of others through speeding. We continue to assess how motorists can benefit from the latest technology, ensuring journeys are safe, reliable, and cut emissions. So yeah, a lot to dissect there. I mean, it's all relative at the end of the day with these speeding things, you know. In terms of the punishments, the thing is, they could have the most draconian and harsh punishments possible. Like, they could go way harsher than that. People would still speed 100%, but it's still going to happen. Maybe it'd go down, and maybe the punishments for such offences should be more. I'm going to leave that to you guys to debate in the comments, really, when it comes to that. Although I will admit, I'm surprised at how low some of those fines are for doing 136 miles an hour or whatever is on the motorway. You're talking nearly double the speed limit. You know, listen, right, I mean, you do 5 miles an hour over the speed limit, right? That's easy to do, right? That is very easy to do. It's particularly on motorways when everybody else is speeding anyway, right? It just is. It's easy to do. I'm not saying it's right, but it's easy to do. But going 60 miles an hour over the speed limit, 50 miles an hour over the speed limit, you are deliberately racing at that point. I mean, I saw a video of someone with a dash cam, like, doing, I don't know how fast they were going. They must have been touching 100 miles an hour down these narrow country roads, which would have been maximum of 60 mile an hour speed limit, if not less. And to me, they look like 50 mile an hour roads for what it's worth, but even if they were 60, it's way too quick. So that's always going to happen. You're always going to get boy racers. You're always going to get idiots doing stupid things. That's always going to happen. So it's never going to go away. Simple as that. Maybe increasing the punishments would be a good way to deter people, but personally, I don't know if that's it. I don't know if that would make much of a difference personally. I feel like there'd have to be some kind of research on that, some kind of data to back it up, and I don't have that to hand really, but what I do have to hand is the data that's in that article, and it's scary. It's scary how quick that's going up. It makes you think what it's going to be for this year and the next year. It's not great. It really, really isn't great. And I'll just share a little story with you guys because I've never shared this before, publicly anyway. I think I've hinted at it before, but I was involved in a pretty serious car accident as a kid, as a passenger, obviously, where basically right outside of my school, my mum's car was T-boned by somebody who was doing about, I reckon they must have been doing at least 60, 70 miles an hour over the brow of a blind hill right by a school in a 30-mile-an-hour zone. There were no tire tracks on the road before the impact was made with our car. This person didn't even brake before slamming into the side of us at that speed, probably because he was going so quickly he couldn't react to us being there. But thankfully, I'm alive. I'm all right, relatively. My mum's all right too as well. Thankfully, there were no serious injuries with that, but it could have easily been a very bad crash. Instead of landing on the side of the road, we could have quite easily landed in a big parking lot where a bunch of used cars were being sold. And I think if that happened, then maybe I wouldn't be here to talk to you. You know, that's how bad it could have been. So speed does kill. I know some people say, oh, it's not speed that kills, it's the sudden stop that gets you. No, speed can kill you. Absolutely. If you make contact with something at very high speed, you and whatever you hit are in big trouble. So don't do it. Don't do it. Don't go. There's no excuse for doing over 100 miles an hour on the roads. What is the excuse for that? But yeah, scary stats, and it's going one way, unfortunately, and something has to be done. But what can be done? It's not an easy one. I am not necessarily in favor of increasing speed cameras and mobile speed cameras. I'm not a big fan of speed cameras in general, to be honest. Not really. I'll be honest. I don't feel like they, personally for me, I don't feel like they make a big enough difference. I feel like they are, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, it's my opinion, and this is just my opinion, that they are primarily used for revenue generation rather than actually enforcing speed limits. They do enforce speed limits, but they also make councils and police a lot of money. That's just my opinion. I think that you could argue that's a secondary factor, but for me, I think it's a significant factor, and that's why they keep putting them up. So their solutions, this will probably be to make more speed cameras and more mobile speed units and stuff like that, which I don't know if that's going to help personally. I am doubtful about that. But guys, what do you think needs to be done? Thoughts in the comments below as always, and we'll see you very soon for some more content here on the motoringchronicle.com. Like, share, comment, subscribe as always, guys. See you very soon. Have a good one.